Also, the guy
Yeah.
who saves him dies in one of my favorite ways. I don't know what it is about people being sliced, and then there's like a moment, and then they fall to pieces that I just
Yeah.
like get a
Resident
kick out of.
Evil. Yep. Hi, I'm Gabe. And I'm Kat. And
And
we're
we're the ghouls
the
next
ghouls next
door.
door.
Talking about spooky stuff.
Like giant slabs of wood flying dramatically at your car as you drive towards them.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
Rube Goldberg machine of death. Um,
Yeah.
Making
It's
you
what you don't
mundane.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, oh, you were supposed to die, and now I have to clean up my mess, says God.
Yeah. Which seems more like their problem than mine. You know? It's
Yeah.
rude. At the
I
end of the
think,
day, like,
like,
look at me, be great. I survived. Why do you gotta ruin it? We're
yeah.
having such a good day.
Like, why even let me survive if murder me again?
Yeah.
That's a
It
big
just seems
question.
messy at the end of the day.
Yeah. It seems like death is not good at their job, and they've been doing it since forever.
Yeah.
So then I think it's not a sloppy thing. It's for fun.
Yeah,
Death
they're
got
bored.
bored. Yeah. Today we're talking about one of my favorites series growing up, Final Destination.
Yeah. I think it stuck with a lot of us.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
unlocked new fears we didn't even know we had or needed.
Of just basic
And
life.
yeah, it just takes really like mundane things. At least in the first one, some of them were just like really ridiculous. So you're like, I don't think I need to worry about that. But some of them, like at least the big events that happen at the beginning, are all like super reasonable things that could take place. It's more like when Death's trying to clean up his mess that you get
Mm-hmm.
like, we would have been fine. What are you doing? Like that would never happen.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for a series, it's interesting that this one did, pretty well with itself through the first three. Like, that doesn't, usually it disintegrates by three. And even sometimes
Mm-hmm.
two. It's like, why do we do that? And absolutely, like, we didn't need two or three,
Yeah.
but two is like, when people think of Final Destination, they think of the car crashes, the
Yeah.
pileup more than they think of Flight 180 for sure. They
Yeah.
think of the log truck. They think like that had some of the more memorable deaths, though I will say like rewatching one, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I do remember those. But the ones that stuck with me are from two and three for sure.
Yeah. No, they're just like they're haunting in like the rapidness and like kind of the inevitability that it presents death in.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is really effective in terms of horror. Like the the first one's a little silly, but a lot of the when they are doing it simply instead of like really complicating it, they're really satisfying to see like how death could get you, you know.
Yeah, it definitely promotes agoraphobia, right? Like the
Hmm.
fear of leaving your house. And
Yeah.
it was always fun like the way that it would set up the deaths or how it kind of trick you into thinking it's going to do like it goes all out like oh we're going to trickle this little bit of water near this outlet. It's always water and outlet. They love water and an outlet.
Yeah.
So that it's always trickling water. Someone slips on it but you always think it's going to be this one way, and then as the person's working to not do that, like trying to survive what shenanigans have taken place because of that, it's in that they end up dying anyway. So that's the ultimate plan of death in the first place, which again just confirms like all of this is a game. Like you don't win. Which it's like, we talked about how Predator is a slasher film. This is a
Hmm.
slasher film too. We just don't have a face for our villain unless
Yeah.
you are one of the believers that Tony Todd is death this whole time.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, I think it really plays upon little things build up for sure, where it's always just like one little mundane thing that in any other circumstance you probably just be like, fine. It's like if you leave a leak in your house too long, mold will
Mm-hmm.
grow, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's just creating more and more mold that's going to kill you quicker than you thought, maybe.
Yeah.
As you said, with the water outlets and other like ridiculous, it was like things that would be so small, like would not be a big deal, but all combined together turn into a big mess. And I guess that's like the horror of human error, because that's just like yeah, one tired person in this scenario, and they've let the entire ship sink because their action has like facilitated all these other smaller actions that cause like these really horrific death scenarios.
Yeah. I'd say I really love, like, we're obviously gonna jump into them. If you haven't seen any of the Final Destination films, like, well, I don't know what I don't know what you're doing by not
Yeah.
watching them. They're amazing. I mean, there is a lot of gore, especially the second one has a good deal of it. So if gore is not your thing, I can absolutely see why it is. It is a really stressful, suspense filled film, and it, even with like, because the path and like the way that death has to set up these deaths to almost seem like, well, they do seem like freak accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's gore, it's kind of from this like comedic point of view, though not overdone. Like, it's not like Evil Dead level blood where it's like, that's not
Yeah.
how bodies work. That's not what a body would do. But it's like that, just like a little towards the more believable side. Like, it still isn't entirely what a body would do, but it's not
Yeah.
stretching it so far that we're like, oh, this is like absurd. But it's also absurd enough that it, like, I feel like you could watch it and not
Yeah.
be stressed like that this is gonna come
Well,
get you.
yeah, it really just only play like these movies would be so dumb if it didn't do so well, the like audience helplessness in watching. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't do it. You see all these little things happening and you know what's going to happen to these characters, and you see them like not picking up on it, and you're just like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
The leak is right there. You just have to look at it. And it's, I guess it really just like successfully plays upon the audience. And if that didn't exist, they'd be really dumb. Like plot wise, stupid. Like
Yeah.
they're dumb. But that's what's fun about them in a lot of ways, is that like you don't really have to think too hard, and you
Yeah.
can just enjoy like this nonsense that's taking place, but is like very fun to watch because you're like yelling at the screen like, don't, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Stop
And
it.
it's such a fun way to do that too. Like, it's in a way that, like, I feel like people are less likely to get mad at you for doing it, because
Mm-hmm.
people get mad when you talk to the screen. But this is a film that really encourages that, because you're like, "Oh, look behind you. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Don't you
the
see it?
window,
Yeah.
like, why are you doing that? Pay attention." And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's easy that like we just get caught up in our lives. And it could be really fun. A fun story that Kat and I experienced, what actually like kind of triggered this whole series, was we were visiting my mom, and she was like, oh, we're gonna watch a movie tonight, no scary movies, because
Mhm.
she's hanging
'Cause
out
she's
with
hanging out
us.
with us.
And we were like, yeah, yeah, we had no intention of doing that. And then of course we saw that Final Destination was on, and we were like, well, we have to watch
Yeah, it's
Final
the
Destination.
law. If it's on
Like,
TV, that's the fate
yeah,
intervening. It's saying
yes.
you must watch the film that is now on.
Yeah. And it, because it was such a staple of our childhood too. And it was things that, like, yeah, I caught that on TV. Like, I've never watched a Final Destination film in theaters. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's on FX now or something,
Oh
like
my
it,
god, yeah.
you know, and
FX, sci-fi, whatever it is, it's
and
always
it'd be
on.
always like the whole series, so you'd watch the whole series. So we end up watching Final Destination. My mom is a little peeved, but in a comedic way. She's like, of course you're gonna make me watch this
Yeah.
horror movie. But the in Final Destination, the first one, it really plays up like the premonition, like he sees stuff, like, starting to math. And he starts
Mhm.
like to tie it up. But there's like a storm uh during the first death murder, like,
Mhm.
after the avoided event, and that's of like the guy's best friend. And so as he's like at home, there's a storm, and the storm is triggering certain things that would have him now curious as to, like, oh, how is my friend doing? I feel like something might be going on, right? Like, my
Mhm.
senses are tingling. And there was a storm happening where we were. And so in the film, when lightning would crash, like, we would see that outside the window, and then we'd hear, like, the thunder, and we're like,
Mhm.
it was so weirdly timed that it felt like we were in it, and we were all getting, like, looking at each other, like,
This
anyone
is
else feel weird?
when we're watching the guy math, the
Yeah.
math is mathing, and we're sitting there like, "Is the
Is
math
it
mathing
are we
here?
the math? Are
Is
we
it
the math?
happening?
Is the
Is it
math
happening now?"
in the room with us right
I
now?
was never good at math. What's happening? Are we okay? And we were. It was fine,
Yeah,
but it
and
was
and then
funny.
we did at one point hear a thump, and we're like, my mom was in the middle of the woods, so, like, that's not always a good thought. Like, it's not like there's a neighbor coming by to see what's up. That's not how that works. And so my
Yeah.
mom, like, got up and, cautiously opened the door, and it was this, little kitten. So it was okay, it was an animal, but it still was like we were all like, "Oh, no.
Yeah, the
Death is
timing
here.
of it. It's like they're knocking. It's our time.
Death has come for us. This was the warning. The warning was the film, and we didn't heed it. And now look
Yeah.
at us. Maybe we did die." And it was like the same day I drove like
A
10
long
hours to
time,
get
yeah.
to her. So it was like
We were
very
already
fresh.
loopy,
I'm
yeah.
so glad it was that we watched the first Final Destination and that we didn't watch the second one until after we were already home because there's no way I
Yeah.
would have gotten in that car.
Yeah.
It would have been
That
like, "We
was the
just live down
premonition,
here."
yeah, absolutely not, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Excellent. Yeah. So, for folks who are unfamiliar with the Final Destination franchise, essentially, how it plays out in every film is that some disastrous thing occurs. In the first film, there's a plane explosion. Upon or roughly after takeoff,
Mhm.
in the second one, there's a mini car pileup on the highway. On the third one, it's that a roller coaster m- mishap happens, causing pieces to fly all over the place.
Mhm.
The fourth one is there's like a race car. What is
They
it?
introduced NASCAR, yeah.
NASCAR-ish, but like
Yeah.
hometown small NASCAR,
Yeah.
and one of the cars causes an accident that like takes down the audience.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know if we needed any of that, but it exists, and it's like there really was like an actual like situation similar to that. So it's not a far
Mhm.
fetch. It's just like I don't know if like when I'm thinking of big disastrous things, that's what I point to. And then
Yeah.
the fifth one, that's the number. The fifth one is a bridge
Bridge.
that is collapsing. Is a big old bridge, and so all the
Yeah.
cars and the people on it are going down. So essentially, something horrible is happening, but somebody who is involved in that experiences it, sees it play out, sees their own death along with everybody else's in horrifying fashion.
Yeah.
Sometimes horrifying in like that, like the way that it's done, but then also horrifying in the graphics. Looking
Mhm.
at you, number four. And then they wake up, and it's right before this event is supposed to happen, and so through their panic of just experiencing massive loss in their own death, they throw a fit, have a panic, and cause a number of people to leave the situation with them,
Mhm.
which then causes the event to still happen, this time taking different lives. And so everyone's like, "Oh, okay, so you saw what was going to happen." Uh,
Yeah.
but then they're like, "Whoa, that crazy coincidence that was. Let's go back to our lives." And then they find out that no, they were supposed to die. This intervention is not good, and it means that now they are getting picked off by death one by one in some order. uh it changes up as we go, and for why and for how,
Mhm.
and it's always really elaborate deaths that like you see the pieces lining up like we explained, and then it's supposed to look like a freak accident, but somebody's seeing the pieces, and there's always like more premonition elements, whether it's like the boy in the first one mathing in the storm and looking at like a magazine that says like shower curtain kills or something, like he
Yeah.
sees something and it adds up. And then in the second one, she was having like visions. And the third one, she was seeing the pictures that she took throughout the night. And the
Mhm.
fourth
There's always,
one,
like, signs for it. The 4th one is the worst one, 'cause 1, They're just like, let's
So
get all the
bad.
worst people together and make them have to talk to each other. It was just like,
And make us care about them. It's such a
yeah,
stupid film.
yeah,
The fifth one
it was fine.
was reaching. There's a lot. It was a weird thing. I do think it's quite interesting that the. I'll also talk about like the ways that people are trying to figure out a way out of the new like out of death's book essentially for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's quite interesting that it took 5 movies for someone to come up with that,
Yeah,
with what they came up with. But uh before I get ahead of myself, I will just we'll talk about the films a little bit order, and then I do want to talk about some of the um we'll bring up like how the people are trying to figure out their ways to get it and what makes the film good or bad, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Kat, do you want to say anything before we dive in?
Just that like, and when I might bring up some facts throughout that are loosely facts in that. None of it's like there's scientific theories, not scientific proven things, as well as just like premonitions in general get a lot of slack in terms of people just not thinking they're legit, despite like lots of people experiencing that phenomena. And
Mm-hmm.
it like not maybe at the same level of Final Destination, like oh, we survived this thing because we had this like detailed dreams, but there are clues around you in life generally that if
Yeah.
you are observant enough, it's not even like mystical times. It's literally just like, oh, you are very observant and you're picking up on the clues that the universe is leaving and you just act upon them.
Yeah.
So the film itself is just like a honoring of trusting your gut. If you have a bad feeling, that feeling's probably real.
Mm-hmm.
Trust it. And then don't do that thing. And then even if it wasn't, like, aren't you glad you're
Yeah.
fine, you know?
Yes.
Because there's a time you might not be fine. So it's good. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my
And
only
you
little
know,
two cents.
I also think there's a level of that like knowing of yourself too. Because if you're someone who does have agoraphobia, right? The
Mm-hmm.
odds are you're not in death's plan, right? You're like in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Death isn't coming for you in the way that they are for this film. So if you are agoraphobic or you have something that like keeps you from doing things because of that fear, absolutely like talk to your therapist, go through
Yeah,
your
judge
steps.
versus like anxiety versus this seems
You just
legit.
have, yeah,
Yeah.
like a gut, like I don't feel like I should do that.
I'm
You
not
probably
saying
shouldn't.
don't go live.
Yeah,
Go live.
yeah,
But also recognize if you like see one or two things and it's like, oh, that's suspicious. It
yeah,
might be.
yeah.
So,
And it's okay to like protect yourself. Like no one should
yeah.
be mad at you for doing that. And yeah, I would love in the future someday for us to do like a glitch in the matrix series
Mm-hmm.
like episode, just because I find those stories really fascinating and like the videos that even if they're most likely lies,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. That's cool.
Where I had a
um
dream and then I woke up and it felt like 5 years later. I find this really fascinating too.
yeah, things
Similar
like
vibes.
that, or like you remember some like not so much the Mandela effect, but like similar where like I
Mm-hmm.
remember this thing that someone said and then they're like I never said that, and then 3 years later it's happening and it's like because you saw it. I love that stuff. So
I have some of those actually, so that'll be
oh
fun.
yay, so
In
we get
my
a little
little
dabble of it.
yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, the first one is like foundational in the world of final like in horror and just like suspense thriller world. It's
Mm-hmm.
from 2000, which says a lot. The fact that it is like a plane crash, right? A little
Mm-hmm.
premonition of itself, which is also weird because in the third one, is it the third one? There's a lot of like random nods to 9/11 and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I didn't bother looking up, but if somebody knows, let me know. But the
Yeah.
first one, it's 2000. So, uh people are allowed to do plane crashes. It's not like what happened to Lilo and Stitch where they had to redo the whole ending sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Um so what I found really interesting is like that it is based on um the creator, the writer, totally blanking on his name, I'm gonna look it up right now. Directed by James Wong. Jeffrey Reddick. So who's kind of kind of keeps with things most of the time. But Jeffrey
Mm-hmm.
Reddick saw this article about a woman who had a bad feeling about a flight. And so she didn't, or her, no, it wasn't that she had a bad feeling. It's that her mom called her. She was supposed to get
Mhm.
on a flight, and her mom called her and said, "Hey, uh, I don't feel good about this flight. Do not get on that flight."
Yeah.
And she's like, "All right." Like, all right. I don't know what their relationship is, but she trusted that. So she didn't get on her flight. And that one did end up having a malfunction that could have cost her life, or, yeah. So he like read that and was like, oh, okay. And then ran with it.
Yeah.
And I've definitely heard that story too before. Like, my own aunt has told me once that she had like this weird feeling about a flight and decided not to do it, and it ended up being not a great flight. um Things like that, like people have had, especially about flights, like that's a scary time. I
We
feel
weren't
like you
meant to
got to
be
be
in
in a
the
good,
sky.
yeah, you got to be in a good place to be up there and be
That's a
like
test in
good.
and of itself. I've flown before, but do I think I should be up there? No. Just like I don't think we should be in space. Just like I don't think we should be in the ocean. There's lots of things where it's like, why would we go? It seems like a bad plan. Um,
Yeah, I think if, like, I understand the fear of planes, like people who are afraid of planes. Like, it is like very incredibly infrequent. Like, it's more likely that you're gonna, like, firstly get into a car accident, secondly have a
well,
stomach
yeah.
attack or something. But like, I get it. Like, it is a very scary thing. And so like when I feel a lot of anxiety about driving, I love that pretty much every single person, like besides my mom, has been like, that's a valid fear.
Yeah, cars are
Like,
scary.
that
It's a
is like,
giant metal box
yeah,
of
and you're just
fire.
going
Like, what do
very
you need?
far, like very
And
fast,
fast.
and you are a small body. Like, it's very
Mhm.
valid to be afraid of cars, especially because it's like, it's not you, it's everybody else around you, right? So
Mhm.
it plays on that kind of fear. uh it also, like, it goes in the same thing as like most slasher films when it's like teenagers, right? You're losing
Mhm.
friends or acquaintances, people being brought together by this tragedy. And then it also plays into like the suspense. Like, uh I feel like this happened in Scream. It happens in a lot of slasher films where as people start just dying, then
Mhm.
the main character starts looking very suspicious because they're the
Yeah,
one
they're
who's
like,
trying to
how
like stop it. So they're always there in the
they're like,
wrong
"Oh, you're
time.
conveniently at the scene of a death." Or like, "Are you murdering people? Like, is this a serial killer situation?"
Yeah, and it's like, can I murder people with circumstance? Like, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
don't
I'm
think I
just
can
bad luck.
do. Yeah, like extreme. So, essentially, this boy, he inadvertently saves some folks, but all of his class, that was his French class that were going to France, are gone. And
Mhm.
so as he starts to figure out that death is coming for them, he finds out that it's coming for them because in the order that they would have died in the plane explosion. And he knows that because
Mhm.
on the TV they showed the explosion situation. I was like, that's crazy. The news was nuts. The
Yeah.
news is still nuts. Like, I have literally seen people die on screen, like literal people dead. So I get it. Like, we
Yeah.
don't. People pretend that the news is soft, but it doesn't. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
I
no,
hope
they show
children are
like
asleep.
yeah, like they show horrifying things on there all the time. Usually, honestly, without trigger warnings, so
Yeah,
it's the whole
like, oh,
time.
here's something horrible. Oh,
Yeah.
dang it, it's too late. So it's in my hand now.
Yeah.
And then also the internet. Like, I think if Final Destination happened today, all of it would have been on TikTok or something.
Oh, that would have been fun though, like
I
as a
do feel
video, a
very strongly
movie.
that if the zombie apocalypse were to happen today, we would first start seeing videos of like random stuff happening on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be someone like, "Whoa, this weird thing where this person was in their car and it looked like they were dead, and then they got up and like,"
Yeah.
and it would be months of, yeah. So that's
We would
my
know
thing.
ahead of time. It wouldn't be like the whole really rapid response. Like people would be seeing it happening live, and we wouldn't lose the internet as fast as people like to like say that they do in
Hmm.
these zombie movie scenarios. That's not like it, a lot of it's a lot of it just goes, and we're just there.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, I
so I
think we
agree.
would have.
TikTok will be the method of communication until we have like another social media
Yeah,
platform to
what's
pave the
next?
way.
Whatever we make up next. Exactly. So yeah, he sees how the explosion would have happened. He remembers how it would have happened, and then he gets the flight manifest, so he knows where everyone was sitting, or he like writes it down. I don't know from memory.
Hmm.
Good on him for remembering stuff.
Yeah.
That's why he was chosen, and he figures out who's going to be
He's really good at
next.
math.
He's very mathing, and so he tries to like intervene and like stop them. But what he finds out is like when you like if death comes for you the second time and it doesn't get you, it goes to the next person.
Yeah.
But it kind of leaves at the end as if like, oh, okay, then we're good. We escaped it the second time, so we Gucci.
Yeah.
And that's not true. He just comes back around.
Yeah.
He's like the It Follows monster. Just
Yeah.
like
He goes through his
okay.
rounds and then he comes back.
Yeah, it's like the Truth or Dare film
Yeah.
where it was like it had to go around, so then she truth or dared the whole world, so it'd take forever to get back to her.
Yeah.
Smart, genius, honestly.
Yeah.
Genius.
The
TikTok
Ring
would do that
movie
to you
with that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the ring, like yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So he figures it out, and that's what they figure. It's just like like try to predict death's plan and then don't die
Yeah.
is what he decides. And most of there's like three of them alive, and then they're in France, and their third person dies, and so they realize like
Oh, it's coming
oh,
back.
it's back. So then they
It's
go into
coming back
hiding.
around.
So then the second one is the one of the more notorious runs where it's the car pileup, and it has this truck full of logs that go by, and she like sees them. And there's like songs on the radio. It's like Highway to Hell. There's like all these like little signs about
Yeah.
like something's going on, something
Yeah.
that's
Things
gonna
you would
happen.
remember. Yeah. If you
Yeah,
went to
there's like a
some weather
guy
ones.
who's drunk driving, and it says "drink responsibly" on the truck.
Yeah. Another guy
There's
doing like coke on his
coke.
dashboard. Someone
There's a girl
flashes their
who
boobs.
flashes them. Yeah, so like everyone's being the most reckless, like
Yeah.
driver ever. It is a nightmare. Like if I saw
Yeah.
one of those things happening, I'd be like, I have to get off at the next exit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna slow
I was
down.
texting you. I was like, if this isn't the highway, these are the people who are on the highway with me, I don't need to ever be on the highway again. Because, like, what? They're doing all the worst things they could be doing while driving.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
like what are the odds that
mess.
you have every worst like terrifying driver that ever exists?
Yeah.
One fun fact, there's a notorious like the log scene. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
watching on YouTube, we have a gif of it. Well, if the logs were like if in reality, if this log truck were to happen, they would just kind of like fall and like skirt in a way. They would just kind of like kind of launch off of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeffrey Reddick was like, no, they need to
It'd be more
bounce because they
fun.
have to
Yeah.
come into the car. So
Yeah.
they're doing what these things would not do. So it's just like
Yeah.
as a fun fact that they had to like cheat and make them bouncy, and
Physics.
that's
Yeah.
not what they would do.
Logs would
Just
not
so they can
bounce.
come straight through your front window.
Yeah.
What a crazy amount of
So they would
those
just
deaths were wild.
fall and then roll, I guess.
Yeah, they would just be like, you know,
That
or
seems
like,
right.
you know, they wouldn't boing. Boing.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah,
They're
that's
not
good.
bouncy balls. So, yeah, just remember that. In the second one, our protagonist is a woman. All her friends die. While after she's like saved everyone, and after like the car accident happens, they die. But she remembers they were the last to die.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, death is working backwards for funsies.
Yeah.
She
He's
also,
like, I have a list. We just flipped it over. It's fine.
yeah, like I'm cleaning up, you know, from where it was.
Random number generator.
Yeah, and she contacts Clear Rivers, who is the only survivor from the first film, and we find out like through like a newspaper article that the protagonist from the first one, they finally left the house after like 3 months, and then a brick just fell and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this the most lazy answer that
Yeah,
like
wow, Death, you didn't even give him a warning.
so
like,
lazy.
So
He's like, I'm done playing with y'all. And so then Clear locks herself up in a unit, and there is a whole discussion there of like, you know, the protagonist for this one is like, well, you survived, like you beat it. And she's like, beat what? I live in a
Yeah.
padded room, girl. Like,
What do you
what did I
mean?
beat? I am miserable. Am I living? I'm alive, sure. Am I living? No. Which then, prompts her to be like, all right, let's fight death again. Oh, sure. I don't know. I just feel
And
like,
then still
I don't
does.
want to die
So
that way. Like,
yeah.
it's really gruesome. I don't want to do it that way, but death won't let you die if it's not
Like
your
in a
turn.
nice way, yeah.
But also if it's not your turn in the order.
Mm.
We learned that in this one where a guy tries to like shoot himself several times with the hole and every single one of the bullets were duds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, that's not likely. And it's because it wasn't his turn. And God is, or not God, death is a diva. Just a straight
Yeah.
diva. He's got a
Stickler.
vision. Do
Lawful
it.
evil, I guess. Or lawful
Yeah. Yeah.
lawful in either way.
Yeah, I feel like this is getting into the evil section because you don't got to do all that. You don't got to
Yeah.
do all this. You could give us a heart attack or something. Like you could do something like
Yeah, a
in the
lot of the
sleep,
deaths you're like, it really didn't need to be that loud. I get it. We're so sorry for not going out how you wanted in the really brutal, horrible way. We couldn't just like let me go sweetly into the night. That's not
Yeah, I can't just
an
go to sleep and not
option.
wake up.
That would have been cool. Thanks. But
Like
no.
or a quick gunshot that I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
wouldn't be in a movie though.
Yeah,
Vance. At the
exactly.
end of the
I
day.
get it. I get it. But also, it's like who's showing them these visions? Like, who showed them the first vision? Because now it's like it has to be death playing games, right? But then
Yeah.
secondly, they keep getting visions. Like for me, I was like, why was the main girl in the second one getting visions? Who are they from? And no one is asking that. And what was just like
Yeah.
driving me crazy was it wasn't just premonitions for how other people might die. It was also how she could cheat it. And I was like, okay, what what is
Yeah,
going
like who is this
on?
what is the one in this trial where Nixon they had the voice in the parking garage and he spoke all gravelly as the like person who gave you the clues to solve the case. I don't remember what their name was, but it's like that. It's like you have no idea.
I have no idea what's going on.
So in the Nixon administration, he did a cheat. And the whole thing is he had a secret informant who told him stuff, or the person who was trying to solve it, Watergate,
Yeah.
tried to solve it. They had a secret guy who would tell them stuff.
Right.
So it's like, why are you doing that? But yeah, who is the secret guy telling the protagonist the stuff?
Right. Who's their
That's the
inside
connecting
man?
piece.
Right. Exactly.
You have ADHD.
Oh wow, that's fun. Well, a little history lesson, everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it is a big question of like who is that? Who is feeding her the visions? Because I could see the visions for like the others, like how he's gonna like, mess things up because that's fun. Like for death,
Yeah.
that's fun because it's like, oh, I made
Foil
this
my
like escape
plans.
room,
Now I can
but
kill you worse. Yeah.
yeah, like I made you an escape room, but it's not really an escape room. And because
Yeah.
like death gets to be wild more wild every time.
Yeah.
So you just like keep making it fun,
Oh my
right?
god, are we all Sims in this universe?
Absolutely.
Because
And it's
it's
like
like he's
death
just
is just
locking people in
taking
rooms.
yeah, and then just taking the stairs off of the pools. Like death is doing
Yeah.
that to us. And so she gets like this vision that one Tony Todd, I forgot to mention, is in both of these films, and he's
Mm-hmm.
a mortician person. He's
Mm-hmm.
there's a word for what he is.
I think it's mortician, isn't it?
No, he was like the
Oh, where you go to a crime scene and do it?
yeah, like you grab the bodies. You're in charge of them. Anyway, he's that. And he's
We're having a
he's
good
Tony
brain day,
Todd.
both of us. Look at us two.
He's Tony Todd, so he's playing up the creep factor of just like you think death has a plan, and they're like, how do you like? I get it, like you're a mortician. Death super has a plan and has like a list and stuff. I could see you believing that, but
You're like,
why do you
why do
believe
you
it so
know
hard?
everything? Yeah.
If it's so hard, why are you telling me this? How do you know? Because you're definitely death. How do you know my name? And he's like, that's a funny thing for later. Yeah, in the second one, he says her name and she's like, how do you know my name? And he looks at the camera. He straight up looks at the camera and then it cuts. And he has like this knowing smile on it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was genuinely Tony Todd, like the human, looking up
Yeah.
at the audience and being
And
like,
then
I
they
know
were
you think it's
like,
me.
I've been death this whole time.
How do you know my name?
Oh, silly
Oh,
you.
and then just
Yeah.
cuts away. Like he never says like, oh, because I know all the people who are involved in the crowd. Like he does nothing. Anyway,
I knew you were coming. That.
he
Yeah.
says some stuff about like only new life can beat death, and so they think this woman who was pregnant and they thought was going to die in the crash was going to, if she gives birth, that's a life
That
that
wasn't
wasn't
gonna
going
be
to happen
lost.
is
Yeah.
happening. Turns out she was never going to die. She was great. She was fine. She got
Mm-hmm.
good reflexes to save that baby. She was my favorite. She was not playing. She was like, I cannot believe like they have her arrested to try to like get her so they could protect her, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just like not having it. She's like, I'm having this baby and it's not going to be in a jail cell, so you're going to get me out of here.
Mm-hmm.
um she was great. And then they find out like she can, what I thought the people in Countdown were going to do, remember
Mm.
that with the bedeviled,
Yeah.
in Countdown, where it was like, oh, this thing is coming for you, this is when you're gonna die. I thought she was gonna overdose and then they were gonna Narcan her.
Yeah.
And then
I
they
thought that.
set it
Yeah.
up. They set it up that she would do that, and then they didn't do that.
Yeah.
It made me so mad.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense because like yeah, they definitely set it up where like the secret is you die and then you come back, and then they never did that, and then they never try it again in any of the other movies.
Yeah.
It was weird.
So in the second one, she does die. She drowns and she's revived, and it turns out the
Oh, she
whole
does.
time
Okay.
that was her thing, right? So she does do that. I'm talking about in Countdown, they didn't do that. Anyway, in this
Oh,
one,
okay. Okay. I see. I see.
in this one she did. She died. She's revived, and
I
they're
watched them. I
presumably
was
okay.
there.
What I really really liked about the second one, as far as like being a great sequel to the first one, is that every single person who was involved in this crash was alive because the people in the first one didn't die when they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was awesome, like to me, because it was like, this is it's now the ripple effect of
Yeah.
like death got his plan was messed up, or their plan was messed up. I want to gender death. Death's plan was messed up, and it's now rippled out. So like every person was either distracted by the second death of the first movie people, or were like involved with the death or cleaning up the death or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it kept them from doing a different thing.
Yeah, so it kept them away from them dying at that point, and somebody else died instead. So now that was like, death was like, all right, I'll get them in one. I'll get them in one shot. I'm gonna put them all together, and then they didn't die again. And he's like, stop doing that. Just like, die.
Man.
Why do they? Who is sabotaging me? And what's really funny is they really hone in on that, because like we have two characters who survive at the end, because presumably because she drowned and then was resuscitated. So she died and then had new life, and so it zeroed out what was supposed to be the death. Two people survive, but they're at the ends, they're at a picnic or like a barbecue with these other people who were involved. Like there's, because death was coming after them, this horrible thing happened. It was another, I don't know how you survived a pileup and then you get back into a car and every single one of us might be dead next. Yeah. And like one character says that and everyone's like, shh. So of course terrible things happen that just takes people out. But while that's happening, there's a kid there who's trying to like help with the situation, and one of the marked ones from this one saves his life. So at the barbecue, they learn that that kid is still alive because one of the people who was supposed to die saved his life. So he's got to die. He wasn't supposed to be here. And then he does. And that was so cool. Also, the guy who saves him dies in one of my favorite ways. I don't know what it is about people being sliced, and then there's like a moment, and then they fall to pieces that I just like get a kick out of. Evil.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's the one where it was like a wired fence, and it like
and it flies at him. Yep.
And then he's like, that's why I really love 13 Ghosts, when it's like the, and then his like front part came down, and you just see all the
Uh-huh.
inside. So fun. I don't know what it is about it, but it's very fun to me.
Very fun.
It's a fun time. So that's
Yeah.
two, and that's why I think is really cool. So they figure out like how to fix it, and then like nobody else learns that. God, so death is still like, I'm saying God because like, isn't it one? Aren't they one
I
and the
don't know.
same? Um,
It depends on which pantheon
yeah, who you
you
thinking about?
follow.
So death,
Yeah.
whatever, uh, is doing it again. It's back at it again in the third one, which is also one of my favorites. I think it really is a nice spiritual successor to the franchise. It had fun. It has some of the more memorable deaths.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really liked the protagonist of that and the sub protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I found their dynamic really fun because we weren't trying to like play up a romance, which is what the
Yeah.
other
They were
two
just
did.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, they were genuinely friends. And like
Yeah.
even when they weren't really friends, so they end up together, and when that's what I rewatching it. So there's like a roller coaster. She doesn't feel comfortable going on the roller coaster, our main character. Um Ramona Flowers. And
Mm-hmm.
so she she doesn't want to be at the front, and so she ends up next to her boyfriend's best friend. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're not really close. It's just by like they both care about these people and they're next to each other. And as
Yeah.
things are spiraling and everybody's dying around them, they are trying very hard to keep each other alive. And it's like to
Yeah.
the point where she like mommy seatbelts him, and it's like chaos, and she's just like holding on for him. And it was
Yeah.
it there, and there were moments where like he's taking care of her, and it's like this is split second decisions, and both of these
Mm-hmm.
people's instincts are to protect each other, and also the other people they try really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we didn't really see that in the other ones. Like it was all like,
Yeah, there were good dynamics
you know,
happening.
yeah, like they were
Yeah.
genuinely like, let me help you. Like he holds
Mm-hmm.
on to the boy, like he's holding on to one of the guys as they're hanging upside down, and she's holding on to him, and like they're trying so hard, and I just feel like we never got that in the other ones. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like we ended up there by like accident, you know?
Yeah, everyone does a really bad job helping, and the other ones like they actively try and then just really are bad at it. Where this
Yeah.
one they get a few like somewhat wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, favorite deaths in like the second one is like the dentist office because they really play off like that boy died like three different times, and then he didn't, and
Mm-hmm.
then she's like the birds, and he's like, oh yeah, birds, and they get smushed. Like that was so rad. And the
Yeah.
third one, it's just like rampant with memorable deaths that people like hold on to. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's the tanning beds, the
Yeah.
roller coaster. I
I
love,
love.
love it. So good.
Yeah.
Um,
I like the nail gun
the
one. That
nail
was really good
gun,
to me. That's
and
one of my
I also like
favorite
the
teen drama characters.
yes, yeah, and yeah, yeah. I had like the edgy kids, and again, a lot of references to 9/11. I don't know what we were doing, and like also to Osama. Like it was such a weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah, it was a really odd call. I guess they were like, we could have done this a different way. I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know. It was really odd.
Oh my gosh. I just want to
What?
say so the first one's from 2000, the second one's from 2003, the third one's from 2006, and then the Final Destination, the fourth one's from 2009, and then the fifth one's 2011. You stupids. Could have been in threes. That would have been so cool. Idiots.
Yeah. They can't
Um,
have you have fun
yeah.
with math.
So 2006, I don't know why we're like, I get it, like never forget for sure. I don't know if this is an outlet for never forget.
For this specific,
Um,
yeah.
I love the photographs. I love the like there is someone walking
Walking
behind
behind
you.
you.
Like
Yeah.
super cool.
I like how they use music as like a warning sign too. Like that's happened in a few movies of like you notice something's weird because the music changes and there's some sort of auditory cue. It's like really playing upon like your sensory
Mhm.
inputs, noticing what's happening around you in a way that's like very satisfying. Because like if you're
Mhm.
sensory sensitive, you're gonna pick up on all that stuff, and it's just really cool that like how they play up all the little signals that something's wrong.
Yeah. And especially like, when you like notice one thing and now all of a sudden it's like I just got a Honda Fit and now I notice every Honda Fit. And I'm like, wow, everyone has one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I've never experienced that in my life. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what cars were.
It's
And
like
they're like
there's a scientific term about it. It's I forget exactly what it's called, but it's you notice things more when they're on your radar of your everyday, and you'll start
mm-hmm.
to notice the signs of them. It doesn't mean like you're just suddenly experiencing that. It's they've always been there. They're just more in your like
You just notice now.
peripheral memory.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're like heightened and you're up and it's just like the universe is telling me something. The
Mm-hmm.
universe is telling me something, and it is. It's like the Jeepers Creepers song in Jeepers
Yeah.
Creepers.
And sometimes it's just game theory where you just discover a route that was never supposed to be taken. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Listen sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so this one's great because it's like, it's not the order in which, I don't remember. I think it's back to the order in which they, uh,
Yeah, the biggest thing that throws them off is that they don't realize the sister was also on the
yeah, they
roller
don't know who it
coaster.
is. Yeah.
So the order gets all messed up because they're like, there's two people that were on this roller coaster that we don't know who they are. So we don't know if they're still alive or not to warn us that we should be like on the lookout for ourselves.
Yeah. And they only find out because it's the sister's favorite, like, good luck bracelet or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, honey. It's your bad luck bracelet because you died twice.
Yeah, bad luck.
So they do find out it's her sister. Yeah, for me though, it's like the two main characters know death is coming. And they have the premonitions because they have the photos. And they decide, okay, we're at like, the end. We need to see what our photos are. And they decipher like his has like light flashing in his face and he's like, oh, like fireworks, and he looks and he's like working this event that has fireworks happening. And then
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh, all that there is this like the poster of like the town's name. And
Mm-hmm.
where he is at the like bicentennial of this town. And so it's like, oh, it's probably at this event. But also like earlier in the film they were like, this guy's like, oh, it sucks, I have the same last name as our high school.
Yeah.
And
So
it's like,
you're
okay, it's
also
gonna be
wary
him.
of him. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but they go there. I'm like, I just don't. Like, if I know, like, you're supposed to, like, heed the warning, and they're like, let's go to the place, and whatever. I get it. I get it. They're trying to save people.
Yeah.
But I was like, you don't have to be there. But they think that because they don't have, everyone knows about Flight 180,
Mm.
but they didn't know how the people in on route whatever it was, probably 180 to be honest, survived. They don't know
Yeah.
about it.
Well,
So
because
they
like they're
think,
not so much like these big events. Like no one interviewed her for the paper. Where like they interviewed
yeah,
him because he made a scene
yeah,
in like a very public space that people already have anxiety about. Or like when you're on
yeah,
the highway, they're just like, "Why are you being weird, guy?
yeah.
What are you
Pileups have
doing?"
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uh yeah, so they don't know and they think, oh, if it just skips us this, like if we get through this one time that death is coming for us, we're good. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like much longer. Like I feel like I don't know where death was. Like death was like, oh, I'm gonna take a vacation for a few years because they were living like in
Yeah.
New York, living their best life, and then they're on the subway, and it's like, what are the odds that all three of us survivors are on the same train? Um, and then like that would have been a really fun, like we could have kept going with them. But then
Yeah.
they're just in some mad loop of
Yeah.
dying. But she like her premonition comes too late. It comes at a point where there's no way out.
Yeah.
So
So
and
they're
then she
just
just
doomed
keeps
to
doing
live
that
it. Yeah.
over and over and some like Sisyphean like punishment. Like it
Yeah.
must be the Greek gods.
You do get this like kind of once I like don't even want to talk about the fourth one. It was so dumb. But the fifth one gives you like some nods to why skipping people isn't always like the way out too. And there's like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
weird lore things that they introduce. Like and it wouldn't make sense to murder someone who's already in the line given the logic that the fifth one gives you. Which is what I think like McKinley was trying to do at the end. He was like, I'm gonna take you out so that I can live. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it just makes it come for
Actually,
you faster.
yeah, because like I was supposed to be dead. So like you only got
Yeah.
like an hour,
I
you
think
know?
it was more for him was like revenge,
Yeah.
and had already like resolved that they're gonna die. So he just
Yeah.
wanted to
Take
be
him
in,
out with
he
him.
wanted power. Oh, that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing I think for folks in this is like you have people who give up, who are ready to just like end it themselves. That comes up, and then there's always the people who are like bitter because it's
Hmm.
like, why save me so now I can live in fear? I would have rather have died.
Yeah, like when you didn't know and you didn't know that this was happening and you didn't even know
Yeah,
this
it's
could
not your
happen.
fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. But like, people in panic will lash out.
Hmm. People cope in
So,
their own ways.
yeah, so that's the third one. Has a lot of fun deaths. But again, stretching the truth because like nail guns have safeties. There's no way
Hmm.
for that to happen. And it also
Yeah.
stops after like one. Like you have to put a lot of pressure to get a bunch of the nails through in that way.
Yeah, but they wanted to do it for fun. So they're like, what are rules? That's fine.
Yeah, no, we can do whatever we want. It's lace people
Yeah.
up.
I don't think a
Um,
sign will flatten you in such a way either. Like it just
no,
doesn't seem like you would splatter out in such a way. Probably
no.
hurt a lot. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you'd probably die, but I don't think you'd get squished in such a weird
yeah. That's
scenario.
another thing with the second one when the dentist boy gets smushed by the glass is like both Kat and I we watched it at two separate times and we both had the same thought because then the next scene is like the mom sobbing because there's like a body bag and we're like, what's in the bag? He's just pieces. Like I
Yeah.
just imagine like did they have like a broom and they're like sweeping them up? What
It's
is
a
it?
dark joke. It's a
I
dark
know
joke, but it's a
it's so
joke.
bad. It's her
Yeah.
son. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
What is
We had the same
happening?
exact thought. I was like, oh, I should not have that thought, but it's here.
It's like, what is it?
I
What's in
can't
the
turn it off
bag?
now. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always like, yeah, people are losing people close to them, and then you act a certain way. The second also has the elevator, and the lady gets
Hmm.
decapitated on the elevator. What a time! That was fun too.
Yeah.
But that was one where it was like really fun because they thought, like, they called her to warn her about the guy with the claw, like with the hooks, and then she like overreacted, and that's what led to her death.
Yeah.
So they did it. They killed her
Yeah.
by thinking they
Where like if
got
she
death.
was
That's why
just
I
like
think this is such a
chilling.
big game. It's such a big game, and Death is having so much fun.
Yeah.
Makes me think of is it Squid Game? Because Squid Game is where
Maybe.
we learned that there was like all the people who were betting
Oh, betting on like their
the winners.
failure.
Is
Yeah.
that is
Or
that
winning.
Squid Game?
Like the rich people with the masks.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's
yes,
good
that was
game.
good. That's what it makes me think of. But it's like a bunch of Grim Reapers, and they're like
Yeah.
$10. This one's gonna overreact, like or
Yeah.
10 skulls, whatever the
Or
currency
if
is,
we're like in a
just for
simulation,
kids.
this is like we're the video game characters, and they're just like, let's see what we can do. They're locking us in rooms and taking the doors off, or as you said, the pool. It's like people are playing Sims, and we're just kind of living the scenarios that they've set out for us.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster tycoon or whatever, and
We should
those
show
are
the
the characters
TikTok
that
clip.
died.
Yeah, with the roller coaster with like the piece missing.
Yeah, that's apparently a part of the roller coaster.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah, I
about
sent it to
right.
Kat. It looks like it's broken, and the person's like,
Oh,
"Oops,"
I should tell somebody.
and then they're
It
like,
seems
"That's a
bad.
part of the ride," and you see it, and it like, there's no way.
I would never get on this ride. I'm already like
Everyone
such
who's
a
been on that ride
chicken.
has never watched the third Final Destination for
Yeah,
sure.
and I mean, I'm already such a chicken about roller coasters. Like, I'm not brave in that way at all. I'm not brave in general.
Oh
But
no.
like, and it's okay. I accept it. It's kept me alive this long. It's just like a scenario like you could not get me on that ride. I would be having a panic attack the entire lineup, and then like I'm sure afterwards I'd be like, that was the most fun ever. But we're not going to do it again. We'll do a different
Mm-hmm.
ride, a ride that doesn't have a
Yeah.
piece missing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just human error. It's like things that you just need one person to mess up to like, and like also it's like you're thinking like people who are supposed to be doing their jobs, but or like repairing things that they shouldn't be repairing, and people up above with the money don't want to spend that money, so they're not going to repair
Mm-hmm.
the things. Like, of course, these scenarios would happen.
Yeah. Like in line with seeing people die on screen, like real humans die, that when I shouldn't be seeing that. I was telling Kat, like there has been several instances where I've seen videos of people at like an amusement park or a fair or like a pier, something, and they've died because of
Mm-hmm.
just like one person that they didn't strap them in, and it was one of those like they come down tube things, and he just and it's like so instant, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be fine. No, that's it. And it's like he went on there thinking he's gonna have a fun time with his friends. He's just dead now.
Yeah, because it's all like human error based. Like just one person had to do their job bad. And you know how tired everyone is? You know how underpaid everyone is?
You
There's
know,
going to be a
everyone's
lot
like a
of people.
14-year-old boy like that works at
Yeah, like a
every
lot of people
fair.
are going to not do their job right. And it's like really weird to trust people who are getting paid the least amount of money to do their jobs for them to like feel enthused to do those jobs. So really, it's the richest problem because they're the ones not
Yeah,
paying people the appropriate amount.
just like SeaWorld. Every
Yeah.
time any person who worked at SeaWorld died, it was literally their fault, because like the upper people's fault, because they were hiring people who were not trained to work with animals.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, Shamu ate
Or if you
him."
think of like all the recent ecological disasters, it's all because like someone didn't want to follow protocol and update the parts that they should be fixing, or like following the rules of like what you should be doing to make sure that this is done safely. But because they want to save like a couple $100,000, they're like, eh, whatever the
Mhm.
consequences are, they're not going to hold us accountable. So let's just go. And then
Mhm.
people die because of the people doing bad things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
In that way, when we don't get like the hokey, very ridiculous death scenarios of this film is like very accurate to the fact that it just takes someone doing something wrong to trigger a chain of events that could end in harm towards others. That's why being a person is so exhausting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but don't
every
forget,
impact
climate change is a hoax according to the Republicans. It's a
and currently
debate. What a
debating.
time. Oh my god. I can't believe it's 2023.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we want to
And
talk about
like
the
every
fourth
like
movies or no? I don't know.
yeah, I will briefly, because it's horrible. The fourth one's
They're
horrible.
so bad. They're like
Um
NASCAR. Let's make racism. Woo! We finally have an
yes.
opportunity to do racism, and it's like, why did you want that?
Yeah,
Why?
it's super bizarre. There's a lot of choices that were made. It the reason I wanted to talk about it is because it's suffering from the like 3D craze. So
That
it really
ruined.
played
Yeah.
in on, oh, we're 3D, right? And we're getting to this point where like just because it's later in years and we have the technology to do different things doesn't mean we have to. So the same thing
Yeah.
like in Alien, when the later films were suffering, where we could see the green screen and we could see that it was like this digital effect that we were
Mm-hmm.
losing because we weren't using like practical effects and we were just like hamming it up. We thought we were so cool, kind of thing. That's what this is suffering from. So it tried very hard to be a 3D film, and the problem is if you're not watching 3D, it's stupid. And
It
it's like
looks
this
so
weird,
dumb.
like the visions were like they were like word art, you know, like when you like you're near Word and you have the 3D word art. Remember
Mm-hmm.
those? It'd be like that. And it's like
But they're swirling.
we've
Yeah.
just learned how to like animate in a like a 4-dimensional image. And it's like a cross. You know, and it was like so obvious.
Yeah.
It also like I know nothing about NASCAR or like car racing other than like what I've learned from the Fast and Furious. And
Yeah.
it's none of this. So when they were getting like when they stopped and like they were fixing the car and he put something in the back of the car, like I had no record, like I was like, I don't know what's allowed.
Yeah,
You
like, is
know?
that wrong? Like, did they do the wrong thing? And I think it's more that like they drove away with it. That was the
Yeah,
issue, not like the
for
tool
sure.
itself.
But
But
I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know why he was even doing that. Like I don't know
yeah.
why, like
It
I
looked
don't
like
know
it
where
was
the
in the gas
communication
tank.
fell
Why do you have
through.
to
Yeah.
screwdriver a gas tank? I don't think that's how that works.
Exactly. So all of it was a big question mark for me because I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know why any of this is happening. The graphics were really bad. They force fed us racism in this really stupid way where they like made this like, I mean, if you're gonna have it at a racetrack, I get it. You're gonna play up like there's hateful characters, but they did it in such a weird way. Like these people were like it seemed like everybody else didn't want them to be that way, and that was so
Mm-hmm.
weird. Like there should like, and it was forced. Like it was so hard. It was so hard, and
It's just
yeah.
yeah, it's gross.
So they played that up, and then they try to have him do a hate crime, that character do a hate crime, and I just felt really bad for that actor. Like, you have to be this character. I like, you know.
Mhm.
But then he got kind of hate crimes, like the fact that like his character's death was that he was being dragged behind a truck. I was like, well, that is kind of how some of those deaths happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I don't think any of this had to happen. I really don't. All the deaths were silly. Like the um I do think the car wash was fun.
Yeah, it's
She's
very
like trying to get
ridiculous.
out and she's like stuck. I was like, that's real. That's real. That's so wild. Like, I never the pool is stupid. The pool
Yeah.
was stupid. The pool didn't that character also didn't everything didn't need to happen. The whole film didn't make any sense. It didn't add
Yeah.
anything. It was super over the top. The graphics were awful.
Well, yeah, there was
The
no
way he got the
plot
premonitions, like
the
that's not how
entire
anybody's
time.
dreams look like.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
there's just no plot the whole time. And it's like they were trying to set up plot in the other movies, and I guess they like kind of brought it back in the fifth one, but there was literally no plot the whole time. Like none of the rules were doing what the rules were supposed to be doing, and like it just did not make sense at
yeah.
all.
They weren't even really trying to like stop it. Like, it took them a long time to really even figure out what it was happening,
Yeah.
and there was never a time to like really figure out. Like, they tried to stop it and then it was coming back. Like, the movie just kept going. It kept going for forever. And
Hmm.
then it would be like, psych. Here's
Yeah.
another premonition.
Its little
And then at
gotchas
the
were
end,
dumb.
it was so many gotchas. And then at the end, it was like, maybe we were supposed to be here the whole time. Like, they said it like they've just made this the most amazing discovery. Like, this gotcha that the audience is gonna be like, no, what? 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 Like, and instead we're like, oh,
Like
I'm so glad that
why
you're
did I
dying
sit through this
finally.
entire movie in the first place?
Right.
Like it was just really stupid. And like the deaths
Yeah.
weren't even like believable for a lot of them.
No. Oh
Where like in the
no.
previous movies, like some of them at least were, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. They didn't, nothing made sense. It was not mathing, which is sad because the whole thing is about mathing. And
Yeah.
so then the last one, well, there's rumored that there's a sixth one being worked on, which will maybe, like, and Jeffrey Reddick has said, uh, all the rules we know are going to be gone in the sixth one. Like,
That's
it's not
probably
going to follow the
good.
same format, which might be good, might be horrible, right?
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
the fifth one is such a weird. I don't understand like what he was like. He was working at a paper company in marketing, but then they had this like warehouse, and then he wanted to be a chef. Like, it was such a weird. Like, it was a lot of very weird decisions
Yeah.
placed upon these characters, and I had to like suspend too much belief. Like, I have to like absolutely not know anything about being an adult person. Like, it felt to
Yeah.
me like the Rugrats wrote what adults do. Like, that's what it felt like. It
You're
was
like
like,
they go
oh,
to job.
they go to job and cubicle. And also
Yeah.
there's a factory. And then
Yeah.
also you want to be a chef and go to France. Like, it was
Yeah.
so weird. And then like, so, and the bridge collapse was really silly. There's a lot going on. It was also kind of playing up on the like
3D
it
and all
was
that.
super weird. It
Yeah.
was very weird. It was cute in that there was a lot throughout the whole film references to the four other films. That
Yeah.
was cool. There was like
It's
on
lots
the,
of loop backs.
yeah, after the guy died, one of the guys died, they're at like a ceremony for him. And there's a picture of him with the car
Mm-hmm.
from the fourth one. And then there's like the flight, there's like flying, there's car things, there's blah, blah, blah. And this is the first film where there's no reference to Flight 180. There's no
Mm-hmm.
reference to this has already happened before.
Yeah, they don't have like the pictures with the string on the
Yeah,
wall.
they can't because they don't have any of that, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I don't know where we are in time, but it seems funky. And then we also introduced this idea that, Tony Todd's back in this one, and he's also being sus.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, death hates you, and they're like, what are you talking about? And he just leaves. He's like, death fucking can't stand y'all.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no. And the black guy's like, really? That's I've gotten 3 lines. Anyway, um so they come up all by themselves. And again, I'm very surprised it took 5 movies for someone to come up with this plot that the way to beat death, which is to kill someone who is like to body swap essentially. Like death
Mm-hmm.
needs to fill a quota. And so if I kill somebody else who's not me,
Who isn't
I
gonna
get to
die?
live.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't make any sense because God or death kills people anyway. Like whenever the event happens and someone premonitions away, people are dying that who were not supposed to die but have now died, and all these people are alive, and he still goes after them.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't make any sense. Like I just want to put that out there. If you get stuck in a death loop of this situation, killing somebody else is not going to save your life because death is
People
already
just be
killing other
dying all the
people to save
time.
your
Yeah.
life. It doesn't matter. You got to be dead. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
dead somehow, right? The only way I
Yep.
guess is to die but not die,
Yeah. Die
but
when it
die but
wants
come
you
back,
to, I guess, and then come
die but
back.
come back.
Yeah.
The only way. We know that now. But they don't know that.
Yeah.
And so uh this did have like the gymnastic death that messed me up a bit. That
Yeah.
was a bizarre. I was waiting and they did the thing. They got the water next to an outlet and she like puts a towel down. I was like, "Go." She had a bad feeling. She should have went with her bad feeling. She
Yeah.
didn't. And then she like she crunched up into her and I was like, oh my god, this is why
Yeah.
what's her name, Simone Biles, why she's like I can't do gymnastics anymore because she gets hesitate, like she hesitates,
Yeah.
and so she's like I can't do it because it's dangerous, it's like life threatening,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
You
like
can.
your body threatens if you don't like if you can't own it and you can't feel confident. So if you get like there's a word for it that they have, but
Yeah.
essentially when you start doubting your body and its ability to do those things, you can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like paused for like indefinitely.
Yeah.
So her having that like gut feeling, I was like, oh, you should have just believed that. And then boop, what a terror. Like look it up if you you don't have to watch the whole movie, you could just look up that scene.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about this film is they think that they've won because the character who thought, oh, we'll just I'll kill this guy's girlfriend, the protagonist's girlfriend, because she survived. As far as we know, she survived.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so if I kill her, then she takes my place because we think that's what happened earlier. It's not. And then they end up. There's also like he doesn't kill her, but he kills a cop who was not involved, who was doing his job, and he. So they think, oh well, we killed this guy who killed that guy, so we get their death, and so we're good, we're gooch. And then they get on a plane to go to France because he's got to go to chef school.
In France.
And who's on the plane but our friends from number one? This is flight 180, friends.
Yeah.
So turns out that the first ever death mistake was that bridge, which is such a bold thing to say.
Yeah.
And that is what caused the spiral out. So it's like it kind of works when we're thinking of it, where it's like, okay, this bridge happened. Oops, I made a mistake. But it's kind of fun picking people off in this crazy way. But let me just clean up my mess. So I'm going to put a bunch of them onto this plane
Mm-hmm.
and explode it. But then, oops, this person now has a premonition and he gets off. And then all those people, like it rippled out because then all those people who were supposed to die didn't because of those people. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like 5, 1, and 2 connect really well, actually.
Yeah.
And then 3 was like for funsies. There's like very brief mention of what
Yeah.
they're connected for. But just for that, it's fun. And it had like a little like after credit scene of like, remember all the ways that people died. And I was
Let's
like, that's nice.
experience
That's
those
cute.
again. Yeah.
Like, you know what? Yeah. Be proud of this insane film that you made because nothing else has been made in that way, like for a long time until like we got like Countdown and all this.
Yeah.
But tell me about some premonitions, Kat.
Yeah, so apparently there's this thing called quantum entanglement, nicknamed spooky action at a distance, I don't know, by Albert Einstein, which describes the proven phenomenon of two spatially separated particles influencing each other, even over large distances. So while the phenomena is like subatomic, academics theorize that the quantum entanglement could explain phenomena like telepathy or psychokinesis. And this is in The Guardian. It's an article that basically is like premonitions that turn out to be true. Is there science to explain this
That's exciting.
taking place?
And the answer is yes.
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, it's a scientific theory, and actually, like a lot of scientists hate it. They're like, "You're dumb. Why would you even think telepathy is real? Stupid." Which is, I don't know. I think it's real. I think it's pretty
I think
interesting,
it's good.
actually.
Yeah.
So there are many accounts of crisis telepathy, which is basically people operating around this kind of, what is it called? The entanglement, quantum entanglement, where you kind of sense that something has happened to someone, even though they're not with you. So, like, for example, like you just get a feeling that something
Mm-hmm.
bad has happened to someone who you're close with. So kind of like either predicting or like just being aware when you shouldn't know. So there's just lots of stories specifically where someone wakes up in the middle of the night and they just start crying and they just know something is wrong, and then they get a call telling them someone that they love is gone.
Well, my
And that,
grandmother did that.
yeah, it's like, you
She
know,
woke
ahead
up
of
when my
time.
grandpa died, and they were
Hmm.
completely different states. And she woke up in the middle of the night and like woke someone up, and then she got the call.
Yeah, and it's like a phenomenon that happens a lot, and they think it could happen because of this quantum entanglement, in that like our bodies, through existing with these people, have connections that span across like far distances, and that we can kind of sense when they are no longer here.
Yeah,
There's
because there's a
also,
connection we can't see, like with our
mhm,
human eye.
and like interconnectedness of like humans, and also just like apparently like fungal systems can like showcase how different places are connected, even just through energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like the other version where you can kind of predict something bad is going to happen. So even though this theory is kind of thought of as nonsense, like not real, like people don't think, trust it. Lots of scientists are like, this is dumb. No. But there are scientists working on this theory to kind of understand like how our brains function and how we could use premonitions and like telekinesis and essentially like psychicness, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
as a way to predict, but also like communicate with each other without words. There's also this study about sleep or precognitive dreams. So people have dreams and then like realize something is wrong. Isaiah has those.
Mm-hmm.
He's always right. He has a bad
Mm-hmm.
dream with a certain thing happening in it, and then something bad happens to someone. It's really intense.
Yeah,
But it says
my
that,
grandmother's also like that.
yeah, where you just wake up and you just know.
Yeah,
I kind of get some gut feelings sometimes. I don't. They're wrong a lot though. That's just because I have anxiety.
I have a good gut feeling.
Yeah.
Like the only time, like oftentimes things go bad because I like try to ignore my gut feeling about a
Mm-hmm.
person or a thing, and I'm like, no, like I'm overreacting, or let me get over it, and then it's like, no, I was right.
Oh, gut feelings. I'm not debating. Gut feelings are right. Like 90% of the
Mm-hmm.
time. I fully believe that. I'm talking about like you just suddenly get like really sad, like you're grieving as if something horrible has
Oh,
happened,
right.
but you don't have any reason
Sad all the
to.
time.
And then you're just like, oh, is something wrong? And there's been times where that's right. Like specifically for my grandpa's death, I knew before it
Mm-hmm.
happened. But for like other instances, there's been times where I've had that feeling, and it's just because I was triggered by something and I didn't pick up on that on a sensory level, and was like, oh, everything's fine. No one's in danger. That's good. But the dreams, the precognitive dreams, there's actually a lot of humans that experience this. Apparently, among 17.8 to 30%, 38% of people have
That is a lot.
experienced some level of at least one precognitive premonition dream. And these dreams seemingly predict the future. And there's like actually like a journal that's like been collected of people who've experienced this and like have been right. So there's actually rules for deciding that a dream is precognitive. You must record or tell others about your dream before the dream scenario is fulfilled in real life.
Mm,
The dream must have a significant number of unique details so that it's unlikely to be filled by chance. So it's like you have to have that scenario where you're on the road and you see the lady flash her boobs and you see the guy with the drink spill. You know, you have to see
yeah.
all the things that are like really odd and you just wouldn't remember at a
Mm-hmm.
happenstance.
It's like when she
Um,
knows what song it is and turns, and then the
mm-hmm.
song starts playing.
Yeah, exactly. So any dreams that are self fulfilling prophecies or that could be influenced by existing knowledge are not premonition dreams. So essentially, it's like if you're just picking up on math, That's
Mhm.
not a
Mhm.
premonition. You're just picking up on the stuff around you that's trying to warn you.
Yeah, you have to be
Um,
like a distance of some sort away.
yeah, and apparently, dream telepathy and communication with others via dreams cannot influence the premonition dream. That's one of the rules as well. So essentially, this comes from what is it, sleepfoundation.org. And they kind of go through like a bunch of instances where this has taken place. So, and apparently in 1966, a landslide of waste from a coal mine slid into a South Wales village in Aberfan, and a local school was destroyed by the landslide, unfortunately, killing 144 students and teachers, which is horrifying and horrible.
Mhm.
But there was a scientist or a psychiatrist specifically that went to the village and actually recorded multiple instances. The psychiatrists themselves has like a pretty like bad history. I'm not even going to say their name because they suck. But they had interesting scientific theories around precognitive dreams, and there were over 76 accounts of premonitions of the Aberfan landslide. And that people like knew it was going to happen before it happened. Like a little girl woke up and told her parents, uh, her name was Errol May at 10 years old, like submitted a dream. Her parents submitted a dream that she said that something black was going to fall from the sky and cover the school, and the school would be gone. And
Mm.
that's literally what happened. That happened before she actually was killed. And there's lots of other instances. They actually made an entire journal collecting these sources of precognitive dreams. I need to find where the word is that says what it is called. I cannot find it. But essentially, there's a journal that collects all these precognitive dreams in all in one place. And they really mentioned this Alberfan incident because so many people had precognitive dreams before it took place. Another,
Mhm.
just like a few fun facts, is that Abraham Lincoln apparently had a precognitive dream before his assassination,
Oh.
and like recorded it and told it to people. So apparently, Abraham Lincoln reportedly dreamed his own death, and Lincoln's friend and law partner, Ward Hill Lamon, later described the dream as Lincoln recounted it to him. But he essentially dreamed that people were sobbing in his dream, and he went to investigate. And in the White House, he found a corpse dressed for a funeral of like another president. And when
Mm.
he asked the figures in the dream what happened, one reported to him that the president was assassinated, and that in the dream he like was disturbed and frightened, and then he clarified the dream, and he said it was some other president, but that he essentially had the dream nights, just nights before his assassination on April 14th, 1965.
Wow.
There was also like a woman who called in to predict Kennedy's assassination. For some reason, assassinations have a lot of precognitive dreams beforehand. But there's like a lot of phenomena around it. And the people are like looking into it. There are scientists who are like looking into what it is and trying to figure out like why humans have precognitive dreams, as well as just like gut feelings that are influenced by the world around them, that have kind of like precognitive accuracy. Like we find the math and we're accurate in predicting what's going to happen, or just like our subconscious indicating what's going to happen. So lots of like things that you can't really understand or explain fully,
Mhm. Mhm.
around the topic of what Final Destination kind of covers is like trust your gut. If you have a vision about something, it's a precognitive dream. Sometimes there'll be real, sometimes there won't be. We'll kind of you'll kind of have to play it by ear, but there's apparently rules about it, which was pretty interesting.
Yes. I just want to say one clarifying thing. You said 1965 for the death of Abe Lincoln. It's
Oh,
1865.
I
Just
mix up numbers. There's a word for it. I have a very hard time saying numbers in the right order.
no, it's all good.
Uh,
Yeah, just yeah, in case someone's like,
yeah, you're
1965,
no.
1865.
It's an episode of Degrassi. Liberty Van Zandt has the thing I have, where it's where you mix up numbers. You can't say the numbers in the right order. It's like dyslexia, but for numbers.
No
So
big.
thank you for clarifying,
Yeah, yeah.
because I didn't even
Um,
realize.
no, all good. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's such a great and fascinating idea, and it's like it seems to have a lot of fun. I do really enjoy films like horror films, especially when it's clear that the people who are creating it are having fun, which is one
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons why I really love the Evil Dead show, because it to me feels like probably one of the more fun writers' rooms. Because it just, I imagine they're like, what could we do to the human body? How could we
Let's
get
do it. Yeah.
pounds and pounds and like gallons and gallons of blood and gore in this space, this small, like what,
Yeah.
how could we cover them in this? And that just seems fun. It seems like they're having fun, and so I feel like Final Destination is that too. Like, let's be wacky and silly. um and when it's in the right hands, it could be really good. And then also, like, it's genuinely a really suspenseful and fun film, in other ways too.
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommend. But um yeah, and this is one, I think this is one we can say that people can watch because it's not on the
Oh, it's not on
shortlist.
the.
But
Oh, okay, that's good. I thought it was, and I was like, you're telling people to watch the movie while you're doing that. Well, that's good that
no,
it's not.
yeah, but you know, it's they're old films, so I'm sure you've seen. And if you haven't, you've now just heard all about them.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting deaths. Just look them up on YouTube. That's really all you need.
Yeah.
And then we have one more left in our franchise series. It's gonna be a fun one. I'm gonna lose my mind. And then we're moving on to a new series for the spooky month, October.
Mm-hmm.
Woo-hoo.
You know, our season, our best
Mhm.
season.
It's us. It's time for
Mm-hmm.
us. Um, all right. Well, don't get married.
Delete your kids.
Yeah. And if they don't, they're gonna come back a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That
time
has
to
a
go.
plan, I guess.
It's time to go. Get out.